This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, folks, so good afternoon. Thank you for attending this short lab session today. Today we're going to be reviewing the digestive and also urinary system anatomy. You'll see here that I've posted that we have added the spleen to the terms and to the word bank that you'll have to go from and pick from for the next lab practical or lab quiz, which will be in a very short period of time. And I have that posted. Let's see, let's go lower here. Yeah, so the lab quiz next Thursday, 1 week from today, it'll be on the urinary system, digestive system, and respiratory system anatomical structures. Okay, so let's go out of this image here. Cancel. I'm going to move this over. Here we go. That's better. Okay. And let's look at first. So we're going to look at the tonsils first. So again, all of these images I will post in documents and resources for you, okay? So what you're seeing here as far as the tonsils are concerned, folks, so there are multiple areas of the whole nasal and oral cavities that in the posterior aspect is what's called the pharynx. This is the throat. We have the naso, the oro, and the laryngopharynx. The larynx is your voice box. So we have these tonsils here, these specialized tissue that will be used as far as involved in your immune process, okay, as far as helping you and helping preventing you from getting sick, okay? So we have here the palatine tonsil at the back of your, right, at the posterior aspect of your nasal cavity, okay? Here's your nasal cavity. We have here the palatine tonsil, so pharyngeal tonsil. This is also, pharyngeal tonsil is also known as your adenoids. And the palatine tonsil, this is primarily known as the tonsils. When you're speaking of your tonsils, this is what you're speaking of, these structures right here. Here's the uvula. You can make that right, that kind of a noise. That's this little structure right there, which is an extension of the soft palate. This is the hard palate, it's bone. Here's the soft palate. Then we have that little extension right here is the uvula, and around the uvula would be the, right, adjacent to it and bilateral on both sides would be the palatine tonsil. And again, you would say, when you point to your tonsils, this is what you're talking about. That's what you're discussing, your palatine tonsil. And then lastly, at the base of the tongue, here's the tongue, we have here the lingual tonsil. Okay. And what's interesting here is you'll see that it creates a ring of protection. So these are present there in order to help you and to really, you'll see that sometimes they're swollen. They're swollen because they're doing their job. And you might even see like little white little pieces of stuff that it's as a result of, in particular, when you're seeing it, that would be here and here in the palatine tonsils. They've sequestered something that could make you sick, and they've actually kind of surrounded it, and it's kind of a little kind of, if you cough it out, sometimes you can actually cough it out or you can push it out, and these little nodules that are present in the tonsil, for the tonsils doing their work and protecting you from some type of bacterial infection and such. Okay, let's go then to the salivary glands, and so these are associated with what goes on with the oral cavity as far as the first stages of digestion taking place in the oral cavity. So we have here the parotid glands. These parotid glands, if you recall, I mentioned to you, if a patient is suffering from a case of the mumps, this is really what's going on. It's a viral infection, and this is what's taking place as far as this parotid gland becomes very swollen on one side or bilateral on both sides. You'll see here that we have the submandibular and the sublingual. Here's the tongue. So the sublingual and the submandibular, mandible is cut right here. That's the lower jaw. Those are also, these three areas are salivary glands that will contribute to saliva production as well as mucus production, and really enabling the creation of what's called the bolus. Do you remember that term? The bolus was the food that you took into your mouth, as well as any kind of enzymes and saliva all mixed together, and it's the bolus after you've chewed the food for a while and mixed it with enzymes and the saliva and mucus, then you'll swallow the bolus, okay, of food. So again, palatine, sublingual and submandibular taste, buds, salivary glands. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you this image next. This is a very good image regarding so this it's about as much as I'm going to make it at this point in time. But you'll see here as far as we go to the oral cavity. So the oral cavity contains the tongue. That's area right here. We looked at the tongue, the tonsils, the esophagus. So if this is the trachea, and these are the bronchi going to the lungs, and you don't see the lungs, they've been removed so that we can actually see, this is the esophagus. Esophagus is taking the bolus from the oral cavity, swallowing it, going down this tube into the stomach. So that's the esophagus. Here we have the stomach. The liver is right here. You can see the gallbladder in a little bit of green right here, peeking out. If you were to lift up the liver, you'd see that it's more of a sac-like structure, okay? The pancreas, you can see the pancreas right here. I'm going to show you a better image in just a moment. So here is the pancreas. It's behind, it's posterior to the stomach. And then we have the spleen, right, adjacent to the pancreas and the stomach. And let's see, so we have small intestine. So the small intestine is going to be really, you're seeing a piece of it right here. This is called the duodenum. That's the beginning portion of the small intestines. Then if we were to split the small, this is all the small intestine right here. So if we were to take it in half, we would say that this would be the jejunum and this would be the ileum. And then the ileum will then bring food to the cecum, the beginning of the large intestines. Here's your appendix. And then we also have, oh, you know what? We need to add one more structure, the appendix. So I'm going to, so please add the appendix to your list. And I'm going to, again, repost lab quiz number 3, anatomical parts, and it'll have the spleen and the appendix added to it, okay? So I'll make sure that I prepare that today. So we have the appendix, we have the cecum, the beginning of this large intestines. Here's the ascending colon, transverse colon, the descending colon, the sigmoid colon, the rectum, and then the anus. And it's out of the anus where food will be expelled as far as fecal material. Now recall also that I said to you that the bolus, right? The bolus is in the oral cavity, the mouth, as well as the esophagus, and the bolus enters into the stomach and it becomes chyme, C-H-Y-M-E, chyme, okay? So let's take a look at the pancreas image right here. And here we go, this is a really nice image. And what you're seeing here is that here's the duodenum. So you're not seeing the stomach, right? Because the stomach would be in this region right here, right? So we can see that we have the duodenum, the beginning of the small intestines. We have here then, you see these structures here, this green structure, this is coming from the liver and the gallbladder, this common bile duct. It's going to bring secretions, in particular bile, which will then enter into the small intestine right here, into the duodenum, as well as pancreatic enzymes by this pancreatic duct, emptying enzymes so that we can have really the primary digestion is taking place in the small intestines in the duodenum. Okay. Here's the spleen. Okay. And let's look at last digestive image. And so here you go, as far as, again, seeing that we have here the oral cavity. Here we can see one of the salivary glands, the parotid gland with its duct, sending fluid into the oral cavity. All right, you can see here that we have the esophagus, the stomach. You're not seeing so the pancreas, they've kind of made it lower, which is not really the best, but it's just showing you how, so they've kind of like, actually they've kind of like raised up the stomach a little bit. So you're viewing the pancreas right here. You're not seeing the spleen, which would be right here. Okay? Here you're seeing the liver and the gallbladder. And here you're seeing the small intestines. So here's the beginning of the small intestine, the duodenum. Then we have the jejunum and the ileum. The ileum then will empty material into the cecum. Here's the appendix. We have the ascending colon, transverse and descending, sigmoid colon, rectum, anus. So we've got all those structures there that we were mentioning earlier. And so that's digestive anatomy that I would like you to know. So we added the spleen and we added the appendix. So again, I will make corrections to that information. Now we're going to look at 3 images regarding the urinary system. And so we have here, okay, a little bit here. There we go. Okay. So here you're seeing that we have 2 kidneys. Now what you're not viewing here would be that there are adrenal glands that would be resting on the poles of the kidney. So I'll have to, I have another image that I can show you regarding that. But you'll see here that we have the pyramids of the kidneys. So this would be within the medullary region. The outer part right here, outside of the pyramids, at the base of the pyramids, would be the cortex. So the pelvis is this region right here where the urine is draining into. Then the urine will go down the ureters on either side and drain into the urinary bladder. And the urinary bladder will then drain the urine out of the body when you void, when you micturate, when you urinate out the body, out of the urethra. So this is a female. This is not a male. And so you'll see those structures right there. So again, we're missing the adrenal glands. Let's look at this next image right here. And yeah, so I'll share another image with you at the end here. I'll share a 4th image because I want you to see the adrenal glands and how they rest upon like a cap on the top of what's called the superior pole of the kidney. So here what we're looking at is we can see these pyramids, right? The pyramids will filter blood, create filtrate, which becomes urine, and that urine will drain into these structures right here of the renal pelvis, and then it'll drain out into the ureter, which will then go to the urinary bladder. But what you're seeing here is that at a more microscopic level, so we can look at a piece of the kidney right here, and we're seeing that we have this nephron. This is a structure where we have the filtration of blood right here taking place, and then the filtrate, which will become urine, is present in this tubular network. Okay, this tubular network, which will then drain into a collecting duct, and the collecting duct, so right here, here's this collecting duct, and then it will drain the urine out of these little holes, these renal papilla, into this area right here, which would be, they're called minor and major calyces, and then this renal pelvis, okay? So we've got the medullary region that contains the pyramids, the cortical region, which really contains the nephrons, the majority of the nephron, okay, and blood vessels, okay? And then this is a capsule. This is actually actual covering of the kidney itself. Minimize that. Let's go to this other image here. And here what we're seeing is that we have, you'll see blood is oxygenated blood via the renal artery is entering into the kidney. The renal vein is taking out deoxygenated blood, right? And what's going on is that we're really taking all of this blood, entering into the kidneys. It's being filtered by the nephron, and the nephron will produce this filtrate, which becomes urine. And the majority of that filtrate is actually reabsorbed by the body, and it's by the blood vessels, the capillaries that are surrounding. So let me point this. And I know we've talked about this, but just to remind you. So you'll see that this nephron, right? You're not seeing it right now, but it's covered in capillaries. These paratubular capillaries cover it so that they can, so that the body itself can reabsorb into the blood, right? Into the blood vessels, reabsorb water, reabsorb nutrients, reabsorb ions, and only put a little bit of material that's going to become waste and become the final urine into this tubular network, okay? So filtrate, which becomes urine when it gets into the collecting duct. We've reabsorbed a lot of water and nutrients and other ions and other different important things, so that we're just we're excreting products of protein metabolism and other and a little bit of water. So that's the urine. So that's those structures. Let me pull up another image that just shows you the kidney with adrenal. Go. All right, so yeah, perfect. The one. So you'll see here, Yeah, let's look at this one because it shows you a cross section. Let's look at, yes. Okay, here we go. Because now what we're doing, this is National Cancer Institute. So here we're seeing that the adrenal glands are like a cap to the superior aspect of the kidney as it's resting. This supposed to be a right kidney, okay? And it's actually, there's a fat layer that helps to support the kidney and protect the kidney, okay? If someone loses a lot of weight, what can happen is that they can also lose the fat layer that is really helping to cushion and protect the kidney and keep it in place. And so then the kidney can actually start to droop a little bit, and there can be kinking that takes place in the ureters, and really a backup of urine into the kidneys, and that's called hydronephrosis, and that's not a good thing. So yeah, you're just seeing here as far as here's the pyramids in the medullary region. Here's the pelvis.
Professor,
Yes, go ahead.
um, I, the picture kind of makes it look like the kidney, the fat layer is thicker, like in the middle than on top. Is that how it is, or is it even all the way around?
It's pretty much, yeah. I mean, they're just giving you an example. And you know what? I would tell you this, that depending upon the patient, it could be less. There could be less fat layer because depending upon, what the body type is and how much, percentage of fat the patient has. Yeah, there's a lot of factors involved. So I wouldn't go by just this one image. Okay.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was just
You're welcome.
curious.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. So I would tell you that there with that. Okay. All right. So I'll save that image for you, and I'll post that image also for you all on documents and resources in my Warren. So I'm going to now, let's see here, stop sharing, and I will stop recording.